Hello, 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 everyone. Dr. Rowena Winkler here, and I am so excited for this Cancer season astrology conversation. This has been part of a series that I started at the start of the zodiac wheel with Aries, and now we are here in Cancer season with none other than the Cancer that I've known my entire life,
Yeah.
literally my entire life, my older sister Maria. So thank you so much for
Hi.
being here. Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Problem. So before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping, I guess, logistical things. So this series was launched as part of the revamping of my Inner Muse membership. It's a monthly astrology focused membership where you'll get a chance to interact with special guests like Maria. You will get, personalized readings and card pulls when it comes to the astrology of the month. You'll get a calendar so that you can get into planning in terms of what's happening astrologically and a lot of other fun goodies. So, just go over to rowenawinkler.com/inner-muse-membership. And if you use the code IMM in, you can get your first
Yeah.
payment 33% off, whether that is the monthly subscription option or the yearly subscription option. So there you go. And I'll be sure to put that in the show notes. But first things first, what I like to do when I chat with my guests, obviously my sister knows I don't really have anything super planned for these, but I have started developing a bit of a structure. And the first bit is just to look at your chart and talk about your sign. So, do you know your big three, sis, or do you just know that you're a Cancer?
All I know, like, Cancer is crab,
Yeah.
and, like, once you're, like, a homebody and, like, I don't say, like, internal, but, like, you're very, I guess, like, empath? Am I wrong
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that?
yeah. No, you're not. Do you
Like,
feel
that's more
that
than I do.
resonates? Yeah, do you feel that resonates? Do you feel like that you have empathic abilities or that maybe you at times have a harder exterior? Like, what are your thoughts?
I do. I feel like with, I guess the role that I do, like, in my
Mhm.
many roles that I have, it's, like, very like, empathetic with, the groups that I serve.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I feel that's why I'm drawn towards, like, social work and,
Yeah.
helping others. So I feel that's very empathic,
Yeah,
vibe.
that's
Yeah.
very much your vibe, and what I found to be interesting is that so your sun sign, which is yeah, like how you move about the world, right? That's your essence is a Cancer. You also have a Cancer moon, which, the moon sign is more of the it's more of the intimate, right? Like when this is the side of you that not many people get to see. This
Mhm.
is the more vulnerable, the intimate, the at home, that makes you feel safe and secure. So it's also a Cancer, which I find to be very interesting. You have that double Cancer there, meaning that in addition to showing up with that empathy, you feel at best when perhaps that same empathy is being shown to you, that you feel that you're nurtured and taken care of, that your emotions are being, your needs and your emotions are being seen and addressed. What are your thoughts on that piece of it?
That is, I think, on point for me. I'm like, I do, yeah, because it's like, like, all right, I feel like of course, like with anything, what they say, like, you can't, if you're on a plane, you can't put your mask on first before you help others. And then by
Yeah.
the end, it's like, okay, I'm like giving, giving, giving. And I'm like,
Yes.
no one is, I guess giving back to me the same way I would like to.
Yeah.
But I've learned to like, okay, like I learned not to expect anything in return, right? Like, okay, like if I give you something, like, all right, like Rowena's gonna give me something back. But it's like, no, like, do I genuinely want to do that out of the goodness of my heart? Like,
Mm.
instead of, ooh, like I'm doing this because I want something back from
Sure,
that,
sure.
right? So you have to see like what are your intentions and if
Yeah.
it's genuine.
Yeah, intentionality is so important, and I love how you brought up the giving, 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 right? Because we're going to be talking about self care because that's so huge, especially during Cancer season. Is that taking care of yourself and that nurturance and knowing that yeah, that you can't keep pouring from an empty cup, right? Like you need to be able to know that you're all right and that you are able to take care of yourself, putting that oxygen mask before for others. Well, it's funny. I wasn't going to bring this up right yet, but it seems like a really good segue. So I know that I I've mentioned this several times. Oh, my ring light. The 12 Faces of Goddess. I keep bringing it up because I feel like there's really relevant stuff here by Danielle Blackwood. We talk about astrology, magic, and the sacred feminine. And when she talks about the Cancer woman, one of the, I guess shadow aspects, right? Because there's the light and the shadow to all the signs, all the archetypes, everything, right? One of the things, and as a fellow Pisces and water sign, totally resonates with me as well, is boundaries, and how boundaries can be so hard as water signs because we have like permeable boundaries and we want to just help all the people, but at what cost, right? Can you speak to that?
Mm.
Has that been something like a running theme in your life, especially as we talk about, yeah, that empathy and wanting to help others? How has boundaries been a thing for you?
Yeah, I feel like I'm still learning boundaries.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I know it's funny because like when I was telling, I was had a conversation with my boyfriend like I think a couple days ago, and I was like telling him about my schedule because I need to find time to like of course spend time with him, and he was like, you could say no to things, right? I'm like, and that hit me. I'm like, I don't, because it's like
Yeah,
I don't know if it's like I'm gonna miss out or I'm just like going, going, going.
yeah.
Maybe if I stay home too long, I'm like, all right, well, I'm bored. Like, is it because
Mm,
like of like I need to keep busy just to do something, or
mm,
I don't know. It's something I'm still working on. Like, okay, it's okay to say no. It's okay to have a night off. I don't have to like I look open my calendar and I'm like, I don't have a moment. I feel like I don't have a moment to like breathe, and
yeah,
and that's on me. So
yeah,
I need to change that. And
yeah, yeah.
I'm slowly realizing that. So
Yeah, yeah. No, thank goodness for these partners, right? Because I know Derek gets on me all the time too. He's like, you don't have to do that thing. It's nice to have people in our lives that can hold that mirror and be able to show us the way and have us help us have these epiphanies.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, actually, given those thoughts about why you're overscheduling and things like that, I think this would be an interesting transition into the inner child stuff because these are ponderings and given we grew up in the same household, so I think that this will be an interesting conversation because obviously you're older than me, but we were raised in the same household, we have the same parents. Do you find, because this is a struggle for me as well, as like the constant busyness, the constant need, do you feel that has something to do with the way that we were raised, that like it is hard for us to say no and to set boundaries and to just chill out?
I think so. I think of course as like, if you're raising a child, the parents are their first examples, right? Go to bed.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
what we show our kids, even though I don't have kids myself yet, like what we show their children, the
Mm,
kids are gonna be like, oh, well, if mommy and daddy do that, then I have to do that. Right.
mm,
And they don't know if it's right or wrong. So I guess growing up, like I don't really remember like mom and dad being like really busy. I know busy like of course like with work and
work.
like stuff, and like of course like occasional family parties or like
Sure.
Filipino like shindig that they need to do. But
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it was something like innate, like we're like, okay, I need to stay busy for whatever. I don't know, like, and
Yeah.
since you're you grew up in the same household too. I don't know if you feel the same way
So
about that
it's
or
interesting, and I feel like this is such an interesting conversation, and I don't know. I guess the perception is reality because for me, I think I always thought I had all this pressure to like do things because I think because we grew up in an immigrant household, right? And our parents
Mhm.
came to this country to provide for us. But maybe it was all internal pressure. Like maybe I felt like I
Yeah.
had to constantly be doing anything and it wasn't so much our parents expecting it, but like my own expectation.
And maybe I don't know if it's like it'll be interesting to find out is this like a first generation American,
Hmm.
like something like
Yeah, yeah, like feeling the need to overcompensate maybe, or like feel the need to to carve a different I don't know.
yeah,
Wow,
that
this
could
is
be
so
interesting.
fascinating. So it's so interesting because I feel like for the longest time I was like, "Oh, I had all these like all this pressured expectation to like do all the time." But you're saying that you didn't feel that same pressure expectation, right?
No, and I think it was because like like shout out for like everybody like on that's watching right now. So Rowena did better in school than I did, right? Like it was like, and I guess it didn't have that pressure where like it's like, all right, well if you just Maria, if you just pass, you'll be good. Like it's not like, oh, like how come you didn't get that A? But then
Yeah.
I would see you like kind of like so discouraged. You're just like, oh my gosh, I got like a 99. Like I'm like, look, you did better than me on that test. Like I
Yeah.
barely got, like I barely passed. And and I know we had this conversation last time I was down in Maryland when, and I don't know if you remember this. I think it
Mm.
was like freshman or the end of sophomore year when you're like, like the grade level of like
Oh,
ranking
yeah, I
in high
ranked. Yeah,
school.
my rank kept dropping.
Yeah, and you're like, "I'm 3rd in the whole." I'm like, "Look, like, you did but I'm, like, 50% out of, like, the like, I made the top 50% at least, like, and I'm like you're like, "I'm 3rd in the whole class." I'm like, "And you're upset with that?" I'm like, "You're in the top, like, 5, that's good." And, just and then I could see, like, how you were how, like, literally you were, like, so upset, and
I
I'm just like, "Oh my
know.
gosh,"
I
like, and I
know.
didn't
I made
really
myself sick.
yeah, looking back at that, I'm just like, "Oh my gosh," like, it's and I've heard this saying, like, if it doesn't matter, like, in 5 years, like, it shouldn't matter now, but I guess,
Yeah.
back then as, like, a high school student wanting to succeed, I'm sure that was a lot of pressure that looking as your older self now can look back like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, it's not, I'm doing the best I can." Like, you had a lot of activities too after
I
school and
know. I
during
know.
school, and I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's this is, like, literally, like, in real time. I'm just
Mhm.
having such, like, like, no, I mean, that's been my thing. I put so much pressure on myself for so long, and, I recently had a hypnotherapy session with Leo Max. He's amazing, and we talked about that, like why the busyness and the constant churning out and performing, and like what's that about, and how can I, going back to the inner child piece, how can I tend to that high school Rowena, right?
Mhm.
Or that grade school Rowena and say, listen, sis, like you don't
Hey.
need, it's
Like, you're
okay.
gonna you're gonna be a doctor in a couple years anyway, it's okay.
Yeah,
Like
right. But even that, looking back on that now, like, gosh, I even have some like small regrets about not spending as much time with dad, right? Because our dad had cancer, like he was dying of cancer literally like the last year of my doctorate. And I was so focused on finishing, like so
Yeah.
it's given perspective just looking back, like, damn, like I spent so much time and energy just so focused on the academic, like these things that are important, but like really that like,
In the
oh
grand
no,
scheme of
being from
things,
number
yeah,
4 to number 3, like,
yeah,
just being, and that was something that has come to me recently, is just being able to zoom out and see the bigger picture versus focusing so much on the granular, right?
mhm,
Like
mhm,
stop stressing about the small shit, you know?
yeah. It should
Um
be on a T-shirt, like, my
I
T-shirt
know.
should be like mine is like, "Do what makes you happy," like, like, "Stop
Stop
stressing
stressing
on
the
the
small
small
shit.
shit."
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because speaking of like my hyper extraness with academics, looking at your astrology chart, you actually have a pretty good number of planets in your ninth house, which is the house of like knowledge and like
Yeah,
study and philosophy. But I think it's interesting because I feel like for you took your time and you like went on this path to discover it, right? Whereas, I don't know, I'm always like, so yeah.
yeah. Like, I was like, I tell people all the time, like, you're like, "She got her doctorate at 27, like, not that many people can." And I'm like, yeah, I took my I was on Filipino time getting, like, finding my way finding my way in life, like, okay, like, what's it? It's not a marathon, right? It's a sprint.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
not a sprint. Yeah, it's
It's not
not
a
a sprint,
sprint,
it's a
it's a marathon.
marathon.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that just shows, and maybe it's because I don't know, because I have more earth in my chart, right? So I have like Capricorn. So I have definitely more like like
Mhm.
all about that structure. You have a lot of water in your chart. And not only that, you have a lot of like a cardinal modality. And what that means is that it's very like self-initiatory, like leadership, like you kind of like do things your own way in this
Mm,
very fluid, you know, watery way, which I think is just beautiful given
oh,
like
thank you.
homegirl, like I'm trying, as you mentioned the boundaries, like me personally, I'm trying to break free from like the shackles of structure and systems because I
Yeah,
need to stop doing that.
yeah.
So I
And you
think that
figure with, like, COVID, it's like when people were forced to go, like, indoors and
mm,
lockdown, it was like, "Wait, I can't plan anything because we're all
yeah,
inside. What do we do?" So and I'm
yeah,
sure, like, that gave people like, a creative outlet to like, all right, I'm gonna do DIY projects and
Yeah.
maybe finish that book I've started but never finished, or like this
Yeah,
project
yeah,
that I didn't start that I never, finished. So, I mean, there's ways to do that. Like, like you could still, of course, like find time for yourself and do the things, see the people you want to do, like see the people you want to see and,
yeah.
see and all that. But yeah, there's
Yeah.
like, like not, but you don't have to go all out. Like,
I
listen,
know.
but like I said, I looked at my for this month and I'm like, why am I so busy? Like I need to. I think there's like what like one day next week. I'm like, oh, it's like I have nothing written on my calendar, and I'm like, okay. But I
Okay,
know
let's keep it that way.
yeah, next Thursday. So hopefully I will keep to that and have nothing planned that day.
Honestly, sis, I feel like our calendar is opening up solely because we're having a child soon. Like we have been nonstop, like July, June, just July now. June was super busy for us. Finally, July is letting up a bit, and it's only because we're like, well, we might have a baby soon, so we probably shouldn't, right? It's so
We're gonna nest.
hard.
You guys are gonna nest now.
I
Some of
know
us
it's
like
so hard. It's so hard. So I let me just finish the top three because I talked about your Cancer, Sun, and Moon. Your rising sign. So the rising sign is first impressions, how people see you, right? Initially, your rising sign's a Scorpio, another water sign. A lot of water in your chart.
mhm,
Oh, and Scorpio. I don't, do you know anything about Scorpios? How are you familiar with Scorpio energy at all, or no?
I am not. So you have
So
to kind of.
I love Scorpios. Scorpios tend to have a bad rep. And
Oh,
here's why. Because Scorpios are the scorpion. They're a very deep water sign. They have that like stinger or whatever, you know what I
mhm,
mean? So they can come off as like blunt, but they like say things as it is. Um, but they're like, they have such a depth to them. And when you have a Scorpio friend or a partner, like a someone in your corner, like they are the most loyal in terms of like they got you.
mm,
Do you find that do people seem like when they first meet you, do they seem taken aback at all? I'm just curious, like what like or no?
I don't know. I should ask people like what were their first impressions. That's a good like exercise. I'm like, okay, so when we first met, what was your first impression of me?
Yeah.
I know over the years because like I guess I had that quiet demeanor. I
Yes.
guess not so
Yeah.
much anymore over the past couple of years. So
Yeah.
I'm rehabbing that. But yeah, I think there's some people that like they never realize like I have like a sense of humor. Like, I remember, like,
Mm.
I think I cracked a joke one time with someone at church, and they're like, "Oh, Maria has jokes." I'm like, "Yeah, like, I do," So it's like,
Maria has
yeah,
jokes.
joke, yeah, like, "Oh, jokey joke,"
That's
right?
so
So,
funny.
so I think little stuff like that, and then maybe, like, I don't know, like, because I know when you were talking about knowledge earlier, I was thinking, like, oh, like, my knowledge of, like, silly stuff, like TV movies and
Oh my
trivia,
gosh.
like
No, that's not silly. That's so helpful. We love your pop culture knowledge. It's so good. Well, and that's the thing too, right? Yeah, like it doesn't have to be formalized education or
yeah.
knowledge. Like you have a breadth of knowledge. And I love that you brought up your church because the ninth house also represents like religion and faith.
Mm,
So I know that you're very plugged into your church. So I think that that definitely falls in line with what's coming up in your chart. You also have quite a few planets in the 12th house, which is more like the spiritual side,
okay.
like the more like spiritual, esoteric sort of things. And then yeah, so I think that's just interesting that, those are two you have a lot of planets in those areas, and I think that definitely falls in line with, how you find community and
Yeah.
how you connect and, have empathy and
Oh,
that sort of
nice.
thing. So,
Mm,
very cool, right? Um
yes.
let's talk about your, you mentioned your like 5 million different work roles.
Which is why my calendar is always booked up, like, because I have to,
Yeah.
like, keep everything separate and remember that, "Oh, yeah, I have to do this for yeah, for this." Yes, so
How
I've
did
been
you yeah, how do you feel now that we talked a little bit about your astrology chart and your, your big 3 and whatnot? Do you feel that it kind of like, does it reflect the work that you do in these different roles that you have? And yeah.
it does, and I know we'll go to, like, self-care in a minute, but it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's great, my I love to help people, but there's also a time where, like, okay, I need to also, like, help myself and take a step back and do self-care and not burn out, right?
Mm,
Like, because it's great if you're gonna be, like, helping this person, that, and then it's like, "Oh, I need a break," right? But you didn't put
yeah.
yourself first if I'm helping everyone around me, and, then I get, like, the last in line out of everybody. Like,
Mhm.
every bit like,
Mhm.
my energy is, like, helping everybody else in the world, but I'm
Mm.
not gonna be helpful if I'm just doing, and then, of course, then I might get jaded for, like, "Oh, like, why can't this person help themselves?" I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like, it could be as I'm helping someone, then it turns into, like, "Oh, I'm gonna start, like, not loving the work I do." And
Mm.
I don't wanna get to
Mm.
that point, of course, but it could
Mhm.
happen if you're just, like, always, having that mindset of
Mhm.
helping others and not, self-care, which is
Well, it's
important.
so hard because, you have an MSW, you're doing
Mhm.
work, you're a sexual assault services advocate, like, those are pretty, intense fields, right, of
Yes.
work in terms of the care and the helping of others. Like, what do you do for yourself, whether that's on an energetic level or, just like a physical, mental, like, how do you, I guess, prepare yourself, I guess, initially to get in there in the trenches, but then also how do you regroup and recharge, right? Do you have
Mhm.
any practices that have helped you with that?
Yeah, so I know I was on um with contact sexual assault yesterday. I was on call.
Mhm.
I took a call, and then after the call I'm like, I need to just, like, pray for this person, right? Like,
Mm.
I felt compelled because he's like, this person just told me something really hard that happened, and I'm like, wow, like,
Mhm.
and I know during the conversation they're like, I think we were like, just I cracked a little joke, and he was like, "Oh, thank you for making me laugh." And I'm just like, "Oh, like, at least I helped."
Yeah.
And, for a brief moment when they're going through something traumatic,
Mhm.
to,
Mhm.
like, give them, like, a little, just to kinda lighten the mood, and not to, like, dismiss what just happened,
Sure,
but,
sure.
just kinda like, "Okay, like, here are the tools, here's the resources," and then, like,
Mhm.
I don't think I even meant to crack a joke, but he's like, "Oh, like, thank you for making me laugh," and I'm like, "Okay," like, keep it light. I was like, and I'm just like, "Okay, we're here anytime if you need to call." Sorry, there's a bug.
Mhm.
I'm like, there's
You're
probably,
fine.
like,
Yeah, you're good.
this fly is, like, flying, but yeah, so, yeah, and then I know it's been hot, but, like, I've been trying to take walks or
That's awesome.
attempting to, like, and just, like, I don't know, like, listening to music, podcasts, just to,
Mhm.
even, like, something funny on TV just to kinda lighten the mood, 'cause it is heavy stuff, like, what people
Yeah.
share, and, and it's like, wow, they're like, someone on the other line is going through something, right? And
Yeah.
it gives me perspective, like, wow, like, I thought my day was bad, but,
Mm,
there's someone
mm.
out there that is like, they might
Yeah,
not know, like, who knows, like, where their next meal is coming from the next day, or, like, they're in an abusive situation, they don't know how to get out, or,
yeah,
or whatever the case. So it's
yeah.
like, it gives me, like, gratitude to know that, like, okay, like, I might have a hard day, or, like, a hard
Mhm,
couple of weeks, but it's like
mhm.
someone out there is,
Yeah. Again, that
Mhm.
perspective taking, like, who cares if you're 4th in the class? Like, there's other
Well, you
things,
cared.
yeah, I know, I
Yeah,
did
your
care,
your
but
your
now looking
14
back, I'm like, "Why did I care?"
your 14,
Um,
15-year-old self at that time, you
I
cared.
know,
So it's,
I need to
like,
I know that when I went to the Backstreet Boys concert, like, last Labor Day weekend, I was like, "Man, this is, like, so soothing for my teenage, like, self." It was, like, amazing. Anyway, that's a random tangent. But, no, I think that the laughter bit is so I think it's so powerful, and, our dad who passed, it would be 10 years this year, like, he was a funny
yeah.
dude. Like, I felt like he brought that a lot into our family, and I know that, my husband, like, Derek and I, we joke and we laugh a lot, and I know that
Yeah.
when we get together, Derek's always confused by us because 'cause we're, like, giggling about something random, and he's like, "I don't understand." It's fine, but I think that, I don't I I don't think it's necessarily inappropriate if it sounds like that it made sense in the moment,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, there are inappropriate times
Oh,
to
yeah.
make jokes and whatnot, but it seemed like it kind of came through and it was organic and that you made the
Yeah.
person happy. So that's
Yeah, it was nothing, like, about their situation, like, "Oh, ha ha," like,
yeah, yeah,
nothing like
exactly.
that. It was just like, okay, like, when I was kinda
Yeah,
wrapping up the call, it's like, "Oh," and then I forgot what I said, but he was like, "Oh," like,
yeah.
and the person was like, "Thank you for making me laugh today." I'm like, "What did I say?" Like, the person
Well,
like
it's good, it's so
I was like,
natural.
yeah, yeah, I was just like, "Okay," like,
It
I was like,
makes me feel comfortable, it's like
yeah,
a point of connection,
mhm.
and yeah, so I
Well,
think that's
that, and,
really
like, you don't
lovely.
wanna be, like, on a phone call where it's always like, "Okay, you need to do this, this, this," and making it, like, like, serious, and of course, depending on the tone of, like, the
Sure,
conversation,
sure.
like you said, like, you don't wanna make it to be inappropriate, but there's also times, like, okay, like, just to kind of, I don't say lighten the mood, but find times where
Yeah.
to kind of break that tension, so to
Yeah,
speak,
yeah.
in a
It's that
good way.
empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that empathy for sure. Let me see. I think there I underlined some other. Let me see if there's anything that oh, look, this actually fits. Cancers are keenly attuned to the moods and feelings of those, around her. So, you kind of had a vibe of of what this individual was going through. We talked about boundaries. And then something else that was interesting too that's in this book is um that cancers can find great healing. And I think it's because cancers like rule the home, right? Like
Hmm.
that's like their domain, that they can find great healing in wisdom from ancestry and like lineage. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know for me personally, I've been feeling called, and maybe this is a something we can explore together. I'm getting more interested in like our ancestry and lineage. Like this is like a very
Oh,
new
really?
thing. Yeah, I feel like we don't know much.
That's true, and then it's fun because, like, I know every and this is so random, I know every December, like, you know how, like, at the end of the year, like, they have, like, sales and stuff?
Yeah.
So, I think it was, like, on Ancestry.com and then, like, 23andMe, like,
Yeah.
when you, like, I guess, spit in a
The
little
DNA.
tube,
Yeah.
yeah, the DNA tests are, like, half off, so I'm like, "Alright, I'll try." I think it was maybe, like, 2 or 3 years ago. Alright, let me, like, spit in a little tube and find out where I'm from. Um, and it was interesting, it was, like, of course, I was, like, not I think it was 0.005% Japanese, and then the rest were all Filipino, right?
Oh.
But I'm like, "Wow," like, and then they color map the where what areas
Oh, yeah.
you originate from, and then, like, based on my DNA, like, "Oh, I'm," like, "I like caffeine. I'm, like, a night owl." I'm like, and it was
Oh,
telling me
that's
all
so
these different things.
interesting.
So I don't know if you meant that or actually go back in time, like, "Okay, we're gonna, like, root like,
I think both.
biography."
I'm like, why both and, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
so we go to the library every weekend now, and this past weekend, I think I told you this when we were like on a FaceTime call or whatever. Derek found this Filipino cookbook.
Oh,
And,
nice.
like,
Oh, you
the
didn't tell me
first
that.
oh, yeah, the
Yeah.
first part of it, so we checked it out. The first part of the cookbook is, like, and I don't know any of this, like, just based on where the islands are placed is, like, the different flavor profiles. So, like, the South the South
Oh,
is,
wow.
like, more spicy food, and, like, the North is more, like, sour vinegar, right? So it's, like, things
Oh,
like
wow.
that,
I never
and
knew that.
how much I love food. So I
Me too.
so I think I don't know, and maybe it's because I'm about to have another kid, and I'm like, "Wow, my kids probably should know where
Where
they
they're
come
from.
from, and,
Yeah.
oh, wow, maybe I should know where I
I come
come
from.
from." And maybe it is part of this, like, inner child stuff, right? Again, we were I was probably so wrapped up in my own crap.
We all me too,
Right? I
probably.
mean, we're like, as
We all
teens and tweens, whatever. But, like, again, going back to that perspective shift and broadening out, like, okay, but, like, where is our family situated in the broader scope of things? I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
this is like our fall project.
and I know didn't you I think grandpa, like, mom's dad was a part of, like, one of the world wars, or am I
Yeah,
wrong?
World
Like,
War II.
wow.
I believe he was in the Bataan Death March, as far as I know,
Mm.
but again, we don't know any of these things.
Yeah, so you just, like, spew
So,
it out and then, like, okay, like, what does that mean? It's like, well, look up the dates and this is but that'd be
yeah.
interesting to know, like,
Yeah, we're gonna
I
have
would love
to
to yeah, like,
yeah,
oh,
anybody that has any connections, if we need a sponsor for, like, genealogy.com or whatever.
we're gonna call you up and spit in a test tube and find
I
out
need
where
to
we're
do that
from.
too now. No, I wanna spit in the tube.
Yeah, like,
Um,
you could do it, like probably could do it Derek, like, in December because the kits are usually, like, half off, so they're, like I think
okay.
they're from, like, $99 to, like,
Alright,
49
I'm put it
so
on my Christmas wish list, but no, I just thought that was really, really fascinating, especially since we come from, we have, again, same household, same family.
Mhm.
It's just something that I was interested to know if you had any thoughts on, like, and also, right, just thinking about us as first generation Americans, have you felt any? Did you feel like any pressure to assimilate versus like learn about your culture or whatnot?
I felt like so I know when I was this had to have been, like, in 2nd grade, right?
Mm,
Like, the school we went to, of course, it's, like, majority white and
right.
maybe, like, a handful of, like, minorities,
Yeah, I
like,
think there was like two
not
of us in my class.
yeah, like, so, and of course and the only thing, like, I kind of wish, like, mom and dad taught us Tagalog in the
Yeah.
household. because they were just like, "Oh no, if you go to school,
Or
you're gonna get confused and speak in Tagalog and not
yeah.
English." And I'm like, I stick out, right? I am like black hair, brown eyed, like Asian. Like I don't blend in. I'm not with the blonde
Yeah.
hair, blue eyed kids, right?
Yeah.
So I remember like in second grade, I think someone asked me like, "Are you Chinese?" And I'm like, "No." And then I think I remember going home and I'm like, "Mom, where are we from?" And she said the Philippines. And I'm like, "Okay, is that near China?" Like, I'm like, "Is that near China?" And then
Oh,
she's trying to show
wow.
yeah, I think showed me on a map, and I'm like,
Oh, wow.
"Okay." And, of course, I never 7, 8-year-old me, I'm like, "Okay, like, well, that's where we're from, right?" And, like, I guess
Uh-huh.
I never, like, asked more questions about that because I was like, "Alright, we're
Yeah.
from the Philippines." But you
Mm.
mentioning that future fall project we're gonna do about, like,
Like,
our culture.
where?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, like, where like and I'm
Yeah.
sure, like, like you said, being a mom, you wanna teach your kids, like, "This is where we're from. These are the
Yeah.
cultures we
We're more
have," and
intentional about that. Well,
yeah.
that's interesting about the because I had similar thoughts too about the, "Ugh, why didn't we learn Tagalog?" But I and maybe I'll try to find it and send it to you. I saw a TikTok, this was a while ago. There was a
Mhm.
TikTok that kinda gave the perspective from where the parents is coming from because the parents came to this country not knowing the language
Yeah,
and feeling a certain way, like, feeling like they couldn't make great strides because they didn't know English, and so I think they might
that's
have
why.
swung you know what I mean? Like, and I talked to Derek about this. I think they might have swung the other way, like that
Yeah,
generation swung the other way to like, no, you can't, don't learn the language, like be
mhm.
American. So
Yeah, that
now I
makes sense.
think,
Yeah.
for me and my child, I kind of like want to bring us back
Yeah,
like we don't have
and
to be like so Filipino or so American, like
I feel
Filipino
like you do,
American.
like, whether you're calling Carrie, you're like, "Anak, come here," like, you like,
Yeah. Yeah, I
it's
try.
yeah, so yeah, it's, like, little stuff like that, like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're getting there, but yeah, I can see where that could come from because it's like
Yeah.
and I hate when people think it's like, okay, just because you speak broken English doesn't mean you're, like, an intelligent person, like,
Right.
so I'm
Right.
sure, like, our parents probably felt the same, like, I am speaking to you in English, but it
Mhm.
might not be, your version of English or
Yep.
whatnot.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, last night I know that we watched it together, but Derek watched the Joe Coy special.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, just talking about, his mom's accent and everything like that, and like just telling stories from her perspective.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm very much I don't and I think this is why this conversation is so timely right now. And maybe it is because I'm 36 weeks pregnant. Now, like I'm just very like hyper focused on our ancestry and like where we come from and just trying to learn more about that. So yeah.
That'd be good. Like, is there anything, I guess, like, other than, like, knowing where our parents came from initially and, then, like, I guess, broadening out, like, I don't know, if, like,
Yeah, I mean,
culturally,
yeah,
like,
just
how
I think just I think the food, like I said, like I'm really excited about this cookbook because I love food. And I
yeah.
think food is a great connector.
And I never knew until you told me, like, the South, like,
I didn't
spicy
know
but
that
yeah, I
either.
was just like, "Oh, that
I'm
makes"
like, "Oh."
that makes sense.
Well, because the cookbook was written by this famous Filipino chef who has a restaurant, like several restaurants in New York City, and they
Mm,
like did this whole like Filipino tour where they like
wow.
went to the different villages and learned how to cook from like all the nanais, like all the lolas
Oh,
and like
nice.
everybody.
Oh,
So it
wow.
was like super authentic, you know what I mean? And then they brought it to the States. So and just how we're like trying to make Filipino food more mainstream,
Mhm.
right? And just like no, this is like actually really good. So
Yeah.
um so I thought that yeah, so I you know me. I think it's probably because I'm not in school, right? I have to be like learning something always. So
Always good. You're a forever student that way, right?
I
Like
know, like, but I don't need a grade for this. It's
yeah.
fine. Oh, okay. Let's see. Anything else? Anything
Mhm.
else in regards to self-care that you want to bring up or the inner child work piece? I don't even know if I feel like we talked about our stuff. I don't know if we even talked
That's
about what we're
okay.
supposed to.
It's
Whatever.
okay. So I know with like self-care, I think people might have a misperception like self-care is like, oh, I gotta go to this like get a massage every week. I gotta it's like,
Mm,
no, you don't have to break the bank to do self-care, right? There's stuff
mm,
for free, free that you can that you can do, right? And it's what you enjoy. Don't feel like, oh, like I don't like massages. All right, I'm gonna go get a massage.
mm,
What do you enjoy? Do you enjoy nature? Do you enjoy reading? Do you, like
mm,
enjoy comedies like to watch like
mm,
something that's gonna just recharge your batteries and if you schedule it, like, well, I know we talk about boundaries, but if you schedule it enough times, um, to the point where you don't get burned out from, work, life in general, then I think you'll be better at it rather than, oh gosh, I'm burned out from
Yeah.
work and stuff. And then now you have to do self-care. Like, you don't
Yeah.
want to get to that point. You want to like incorporate it now. So you're not like to that
But
point of like,
I've heard people say though that it's okay, that it's actually a nice practice to like block it off in your calendar. Like to actually
"Mm,
like have a block
I need
because
to do
you're
that too. You're telling me
I know
that.
I don't do it.
I don't do that. Yeah.
They said they do it. Like it's good to do it. I don't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
But no, I've heard that like actually blocking out your calendar for that.
Yeah. Like to
Um
schedule it out,
like
like as, yeah.
yeah, it's like no, I'm doing this. I love the fact that yeah, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to do like a pricey trip
Yeah.
to Aspen or
Yeah. Then you're gonna be
whatever.
like, I went self-care and like on
Yeah,
this trip I couldn't afford. It's like, and now you're more stressed out than
right,
you were
'cause
going
you're
to. I'm like,
poor.
that's not helping you. No, like it's, like what can you do for free or that's like inexpensive? Like I know Rowena
Yeah,
mentioned the library. Okay, maybe spend like a Saturday at the library just to kind of like, go
well,
through the Filipino cookbook or
we'll have to thank Mr. Winkler for that because I was buying books off of Amazon and he's like, "Why are you buying all these books? Like, there's a library." I was like, "Right, there is a library."
yeah.
And now we love the library, so
Yeah.
that's exciting.
I found one through my local library. It's there's a and I could tell you afterwards, but it's called Hoopla. So I don't know if
Oh,
your
yeah.
library like is
Is
connected
it
with
the
that, but
audiobooks?
it's like audiobooks, there's ebooks, and it's I think they're just partnered up with your local library where you can like download the app. And I'm like, oh, like now I don't have to like, sorry, I love you Audible, but I don't have to like like
Right. No, I
like
canceled
Audible.
my Audible too.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
could get ebooks that or like, audiobooks that way. And same thing, like you rent them out for 21 days,
yep.
7 days, whatever. And they also have movies there. I'm like, all right, this
Oh,
is my new.
nice.
Yeah, so I'll send it to you afterwards.
We have an equivalent, that I downloaded. I haven't done anything with it yet. I'm trying to see where I don't even remember what the
They
name
have,
of it,
yeah,
but
I think they have other ones like
oh,
similar. So
ours is, my library it's called Libby. That's the
oh yeah,
equivalent
Libby's the
for
same. Yeah,
Libby is yeah, yeah. So we
yeah,
have I downloaded it, but I haven't used it
used
yet.
it.
But
Yeah.
yeah, same. I canceled my Audible membership and the movies, I didn't even think of that as well. I
Mhm.
mean, our local library has like video games that you can
Yeah.
play, you know what I mean? I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I love that. I know that Glennon Doyle on her podcast talks about this, right? That it's like a capitalist ploy to make us feel like, well, you need to buy this
Yeah.
thing, right? Like you need this wine to feel better about yourself. But it's like, no, you don't necessarily need to buy the wine or like
Yeah.
buy the thing. You could
No,
just do what, you know,
makes you happy. Yeah. Do what
what
makes
makes
you
you
do what
happy.
makes you happy. See?
Do what makes you happy. Oh, I don't have any.
There was a t-shirt you were supposed to create. It was oh, I forgot now. The something
Oh, I
something.
know. Like something about something about doing shit. I don't even
Yeah.
remember. We'll have to
Good.
rewind it. We'll have to rewind it
Make a t-shirt.
and get back to that. Yeah, but no, I think that making the time for self-care. But okay, so this came up in a session I had recently. How do you deal with the guilt, when you're like, I feel so bad about taking time for myself, How do you contend
Mm.
with that?
I
Someone
just
like me that's like, "I have to clean the house," or whatever,
Yeah, and I do that too because it's just like I know like there are times where like, okay, I'm gonna take a nap. I'm like, oh, but I need to do schoolwork. But
right?
like I need to take care of myself, right? So
Yeah.
and then I think it's just moments where it's just like I just need to schedule it better, right?
Mm,
And is it to the point where like, okay, I can leave it till tomorrow. It's the mess will still be there tomorrow or whatever I need to get done. So I just like, okay, what's important to me right now, right? Like, it's
mm,
like, am I gonna clean the kitchen and like feel like mad about it that like I gotta clean the kitchen
mm,
or like, all right, I'll take like maybe like a 15-20 minute like nap or like rest or read a book and
mm,
just self care myself and
mm.
love myself. So
Yeah, I love that you're being intentional, like you're being present. Like, what do I need right? Like, do I need to, do the schoolwork right now this second?
yeah, or like, do you have time tomorrow? Or it's like, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
like it's like, okay, I'll do it tomorrow, like, and not saying like I'll do it tomorrow in the procrastinating sense, like, but
Mhm,
actually be like, okay, like, do I have time? Like, can I do some, or even can I do some of it today and finish the rest tomorrow
mhm,
or
mhm,
another day?
breaking it up.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, breaking it up because I know I think if you look at something like, oh gosh, like I have this big project that needs to get
Mm,
done, this is gonna be like, where do I start? Like, but if I do like, something every day for the next 2 weeks or
Mhm,
carve
mhm,
out like 2 hours a day till it's done,
mhm.
then it won't be as monstrous, right? It's
Yeah,
not a big
yeah.
mountain, it's like bite size, so
Yeah, yeah. That's something that came up in my grad level class actually with my master's students that I teach in terms of like project management, time management,
mhm.
like making it like instead of like the big
Yeah.
massive project, like breaking it up into sizable chunks and having it be doable. Yeah. That's something that I've started working on as well. And just in terms of because I used to have like to-do lists like
Mhm.
like so long.
Yeah.
You can't do all that in one day. So just being a little more mindful of no, what like for real though, what can you get done today? It's just a
Yeah,
couple of
like, "What
things.
can I get done today?" And then,
And
like,
like, yeah.
and then even be like, "Okay, like, what," and, like, when before you go to bed, like, "Okay, what did I do well today?" I'm like, "Oh,
Oh.
I got, like, the 2 things done out of my running list of
Oh,
to-dos,"
I
to,
like
like,
that reflection time. That's
yeah, just like,
good.
"Okay," and then give yourself a pat on the back and be like, "Look, I got those 2 things done on my to-do list, and then now I don't have to worry about that tomorrow or,
The
next week."
celebration is so key, right? Because I feel like
Mhm.
a lot of us we just want to move on to the next thing without really taking the time to be like, no, wow, good job. You like actually did that thing.
Yeah, and I feel like
Yeah.
when we have, because I know we're part of the affirmation auntie's room and clubhouse, like when we have like, was it goals? If you have any
Mhm.
goals, affirmations and wins,
Mhm.
and we all celebrate each other for the wins.
Mhm.
That's important
Yeah.
too. So just kind of like, okay, what did you do well today or this week?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah. I
important.
like that. I like that. Do you just do that? Do you do that like in your brain or do you write it down? Or like how do you
I should write it. I like the feel because I on my notes app, like just like
Yeah.
if I have a little to do, like I like
Yeah.
checking it
Check
off,
it.
like
Yeah, that's
like
nice.
yes, I did it. Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
little check mark is like, okay, I got that accomplished, and then so it doesn't make it feel like I'm like, "Oh gosh, I still have, like, 10 more things to do," but
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
like, okay, like, a nice win for me. Like, I got that done. So
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of getting things done, I'd be curious. I want to transition, before we wrap things up. And I know we alluded to it several times in this conversation, the whole inner child piece, because
Mm,
cancer season, as we talked about, right? It's about that empathy, that nurturance, that care, that caring for self. And I'm just curious to know for you, have you noticed things, as an adult now in 2023, right? The time of this recording, are there things you noticed in regards of themes? And I know we mentioned boundaries, like any patterns that continue to come up that may be a result of like maybe having to tend to some inner child things. I don't know. I
mm.
know that's a very broad question, but
I
I'm
think
just curious.
I'm learning to not be a people pleaser.
Oh, oh,
Yeah, people pleaser, right? Like,
woo!
it's sorry if I triggered you.
Mm. No, that's just a big
But,
one. That's huge. Yeah.
yeah, just kinda like I don't know, like, I don't know why, like, I mean, that probably stems from, like, an inner childhood thing where it's just like, "Okay,
Mm,
I need to keep everybody happy," and I'll
mm,
get same thing with, like, self-care, like, I need to make
mm,
sure everybody around me is okay, and I'm good with
mm,
being in the back burner or off to the side,
mm,
right? Um, but yeah, like, I guess, like, what my boyfriend said, like, it's okay to say no, like, to set those boundaries to,
mm.
like, you don't have to go to that event if you don't, you could catch the next one, like, it's okay. But, like, honestly, like, if even if you say no to someone and they get mad, it's like, "All right, well, you're mad. Oh, well." Like, it's
Yeah,
like,
that's you.
I think it's just that time now, like, in my life, I think before I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, I cared way too much of what other people thought." But nowadays, I'm
Mm.
just like, "Okay, well, I'm not gonna do that, or I'm not
So
gonna."
did you feel that when you were younger, there was an expectation to, like, always to, like, people please and to do what other people wanted or
I think so, and maybe if it wasn't always spoken, it was always like a underlying, like, theme
Mm.
current and we could probably
Mm.
talk about this more offline, but, like, it's like I guess just that expectation where it's just like, okay, like, be the good,
Good
Catholic,
girl. Be the
Yeah,
good girl you always have to.
like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's
It's
that
interesting.
it's that,
Yeah.
like, that standard, I guess, that unspoken standard, like, maybe in our
Mm.
household that we
Mm.
like, it was never probably said out loud, but it was always there,
Yeah,
and
it was
I yeah, I don't know if you can relate to that, but I
well,
felt like
I
I
mean, it goes back to what we were talking about before. I think for me, it translated to the academics, right?
mhm,
Like my my perfectionism, people pleasery was like, I have to do
get
well
to
in
say, yeah.
school.
I can't be 3, I have to be number
Right.
1.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I think it's interesting because how do you feel it manifested for you? Was it just like be well behaved or like what?
I think so. It's
Yeah.
like, and and I don't know, I guess, like, well, like I said, being the former shy, quiet girl, it was like, oh,
Yeah,
at least,
yeah.
like, the shy, quiet girls don't get in trouble. They don't,
Yeah, you
you
didn't
don't rock the boat. But
yeah.
now I'm just like, "You know what? F it. I'm gonna, like, speak my mind,
I
say it
love
loud.
that.
Imma say it loud and proud and, like, say speak my voice." And I'm like,
Listen,
"If
I'm
anyone
here
gets
for
mad,
that.
thank you." As I sip
Well,
my
it's
water.
funny because right, because you were like yeah, you were like the quiet good one, right? And I
Mhm.
was like the bad one.
You were never the bad
And I'm
one.
bad, you know what I mean, though? But, like, I wasn't
Well,
quiet. I'm
and
still not
it's
quiet.
and
I've
it's
never
funny
been quiet.
how like, some people I remember, like, I think a mutual friend, like, when they met us, they're like, "Wait, you 2 are sisters?" And, like, we're totally like, yin
Yeah,
and yang. It's like we're total
yeah,
opposites. And, like, yeah, we came from the same household, like, same parents, but we're just, different personalities. And I think that's a good thing, right?
yeah,
Because
I do
we
too.
balance each other out, so
Oh, absolutely. I think that's why we, like, get along so well. It's so
yeah.
funny because just even in one of my mommy chats, they're like, "Oh, so and so, like, hurt his brother." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, my I can't even think that
Mhm.
we probably, like, fought, like, a whole, like, 2 times in our lives." You know what I mean? Like, we always got along, and I
Yeah.
think that's so awesome, and I really treasure that because I know
Yeah,
of
me too.
siblings that don't.
Yeah. Like,
So I
it's like,
think
"Oh, I'm
I
not
think we
talking,"
do balance each
Yeah.
other out.
Yeah.
But that's so funny, that's so interesting that for you that yeah, the inner so actually, okay, sorry. I'm just wrapping my brain around
No,
this
no,
right
it's
now. It's like
okay.
again, this is real time, folks. Real time, real time. I for me, and again, this is me doing reading Loving What Is by Byron Katie. I'll put the book in the
Mm,
show notes. And there's something called the work, which you ask these questions and you like drill down. And I think for me, something that I'm still working toward, despite how like loud and extra, I think I do have these insecurities about like being seen, being heard, right? Like just as I am, like authentically, right? Which is
mhm,
why I'm very much like authenticity, blah, blah, blah. I wonder if it's like it's like we're like it's like the same thing but different flavor, right? Like for you, it's like I can't be seen and heard, so let me be quiet and more reserved so that I could meet these expectations of, people pleasing and whatnot. And for me, it was like I need to be seen and heard, so let me like get all the awards and the right. So like I was
mhm.
more external with it, and you were more internal with that. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think about
And
that?
And it makes me think too, because it's like maybe I was like, "Oh, let me speak up and say my voice," but then someone's like,
Yeah,
"I don't like, oh, like Maria, you're too shy. Don't do that." And it's like,
yeah,
okay, okay, I'll stay in my lane now. Like,
yeah,
and it's like, why did I listen to that dum dum? Like when if I knew it, if I had that in me all along, it's like, all right, well, like you say
yeah,
what you want to say, like you don't know me, and I'm just gonna, go on my journey. And like if you don't want to, you don't have to, you could watch as the parade goes by, but you don't have to participate in it. But
yeah,
yeah, and I think that stems from it too, where it's like maybe I was like, "Ooh," like because I noticed in high school there were times where I'm like, I tried out for the cheerleading squad and people are like, "Wait, what?" Like, like
yeah,
I guess like, "Oh, like can she shout? Can she cheer?" Like I don't think I've ever
yeah,
heard her speak, like so and of course I was out of my comfort zone, but I think the more times you get out of your comfort zone, you're going to
yeah.
grow and the doors will open for you. So,
I mean, I know for you doing the Disney college program was
mhm.
huge. You being able to leave and move to Florida, I feel like that was such a big milestone moment for you and hoping
Yeah.
helping you find your voice and find your friends that,
Yeah.
you still talk to today. So that's very
Yeah.
exciting.
It was a
Yeah.
great experience. I love Disney. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we love Disney. We stand
yeah.
for Disney. But oh, this is so fascinating. So I think see now the challenge is as when we dive into our genealogy later this year, right? And celebrate
Project.
Dad's 10-year,
Mhm.
death anniversary. We talked about getting our tattoos. We'll see. We'll see, folks. You'll see
Yeah.
on Instagram
Yeah.
in the fall if we do it. I think we should. I think that maybe it's like I'm gonna let you can be more loud and proud. I think I need to quiet up a little bit. I
Oh,
want to go, I want to
we're gonna
go
flip.
inward. I think I need to go
We
inward
flip flop
more.
here.
I need to go inward more and go with the flow like you've been doing. You know what I'm saying? I've been too structured, as I mentioned. Like it's not
Oh,
working
but
out.
then I need to be like you and be a little structured so that I can schedule that self-care time
There you
and put
go.
boundaries and say no to people and like,
Okay, so
ooh, oh boy.
let's just learn from each other. We'll do little swapsy swaps.
I'll be like you be like me. Like
This
it's
has
gonna be
been so enlightening. I
oh,
feel like
thank you. Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and it's like, wait, and the time is almost up, and I'm like, "Oh, man, I feel you're just getting, like, into it now, like, we gotta,
We'll
like"
have to do a part 2. We'll have to do a
mhm,
part 2 or,
definitely.
maybe I'll invite you back because as I mentioned before we went live, folks, I haven't scheduled next month for Leo season because I'm 36 weeks pregnant, and I'm a little shy to have something official on the
Scheduled.
calendars. But my hope is to, and I don't know if you want to come back on, Maria. Like, my hope is to maybe speak to, I'm guessing, this Leo baby. We'll see if he comes early and ends up being a Cancer. We'll see. But
Oh,
speaking to the the process of this fire child. I don't know. He feels very Leo. He's very like,
oh, yeah, like yeah.
and maybe we can talk about dad,
Yeah,
and
like
so we'll see.
in honor of Leo,
Yeah, because
yeah,
our parents are both Leos, so it's been interesting with these fiery parents and these watery children.
yeah.
How we
Yeah.
did.
Reminds me of that
But
new movie, Elemental, the Pixar movie that
yes,
came
yes,
out.
on
Yeah, Fire and
Pixar.
Water.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Carrie got her McDonald's toy for Elemental. So I was like, oh, we should watch this.
yeah.
So maybe that'll be our homework to watch, and we'll talk about that next time. And make our plans for our genealogy and speak to legacy and whatnot. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, Leo season's also like performance, so maybe we'll do a karaoke.
Oh.
Sky's the limit. Talk about Filipinos. We love our karaoke. But anywho, I just wanted, before we wrap up and say our goodbyes, I just wanted to quickly mention that on July 25th, let me just make sure that's right. Yes, Tuesday, July 25th at 12 p.m. So nice, lovely lunch and learn. I will be launching my inner child healing workshop. So there's the link there, scrolling down below, rowenawinkler.com/inner-child-healing. If you go to that site, you can sign up to get the ad event, so you can add it to your calendar and be able to watch the YouTube video that's going to go live at 12 p.m. Going to talk through so this is a workshop that I did last year, I believe. Actually, my sister was so lovely to be a part of it, and I talked through the inner child healing value tower. I know it sounds very fancy, but it's a nice process to kind of go through, essentially what my sister and I were doing here, and just kind of unpacking, like, okay, here's where I'm at now. Like, here are some instances that have happened. What's that about? And kind of really drill down into what's something we may need to work on, like me being more quiet as I'm talking a lot right now, but that's fine.
We're
But with
gonna work on that next month. No.
next month I'm going to go
Yes.
inward with my baby. But
Yeah.
what's exciting is that I've updated it, right? So there are more goodies to have, including some meditations. I'll have a workbook so that you can, take the time to really think through some of the questions and prompts that I offer in the workshop, and opportunities to have, whether it's an intuitive reading or a one-on-one session, all that fun stuff, and basically having a cool convo like we had here today, because I felt like this is
Yeah.
a very cool combo.
Yeah. I'm not just saying because I'm on it, but it was a very awesome convo. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I enjoy teaching, as you know. That's part of my astrology and human design as well. So, yeah. Any final thoughts about anything? I know we covered a lot. There was so much so much resonance
Yeah.
between us, and lots of gems dropped, I feel like. Personally, and that hopefully.
I was gonna say after you have the baby, let me know when you're gonna use one of the recipes in the cookbook because I would love to sample and taste test it, and if it's,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's delicious either way. But
Maybe we'll make a little video, like we'll do
oh
like
yeah,
a little we'll do another series on,
oh there you go, cooking with
cooking,
Doctor cooking with Doctor
cooking
Rowena,
with
and
Dr. Rowena.
no, and just like I guess like of course self care. It's like I know I need to do this. Like I'm speaking to the masses, but I need to just schedule a time for it. And what
Yeah.
I enjoy, so I don't get like tired and burned out. And yeah, and just like I guess it's good to kind of reflect on like, okay, why as an adult I do or don't do the things that, I do. And it's like
Yeah.
maybe it stems back to like a childhood like trauma or, so like
Mhm.
a habit, right? So it's good to just reflect on like, okay, is that why I do what I do? Like why is it? Why why do that? So I think
Yeah.
the more you ask yourself those questions, the more you learn about yourself and the more you're going to grow. So that's
Yes, that is a great way to end things. Thank you so much,
thank
sis. I can't wait to
you.
see you in a little bit once you meet the baby.
Yes. Include
Friends,
party of 4. Yay.
yes, when we have a little boy with us who's either a Cancer or Leo, depending on the arrival date. So
I think Cancer, but
you
that's just
think Cancer, you're rooting for
yeah.
poor Derek with all his water signs again, water sign children and wife.
Yes.
But yes, thank you, folks. If you're watching the replay, let us know if you have any questions. I'll be sure to drop, resources or anything that's been mentioned in the show notes here. And yeah, join the Inner Muse membership. Hop on for that inner child healing workshop, and stay tuned as I try to figure out when we're going to have this Leo season conversation, given the arrival of baby boy Wink Earthside. So we'll see. But
Can't wait.
until then, take care of yourselves, self-care, schedule that in, have some structure, but also some flexibility, as the Briones sisters have chatted
Balance.
about today. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And yeah, hang out with that inner child and ask those questions. As Maria said, it's time to grow, and Cancer season is a great time to do it. So take care, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you. Thank
Bye
you. Bye.
bye.